Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm the Reverend Christine Dance. I am honored to be the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix. Welcome to UUCP's online worship service. I am joining you from our empty sanctuary. It's a perfect metaphor for our service here today. I so wish you all could be here with me. It's just beautiful. So all of the quilts, with all the quilt work, the artwork that was hanging the week before we left, it's still all over the walls. And the chalkboard with the calendar for the month of March is still in the lobby. But it's also changing. Our amazing sextons have scrubbed our kitchen and our storage closets clean, and our custodian Manuel has been deep cleaning many parts of the building. And in a service that's all about singing, you can bet that I'm going to be singing my very loudest and filling up this sanctuary all by myself. For those of you who are just joining us today from Phoenix or from wherever you are, we welcome you. We're so glad that you are here. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix strives to be a spiritual community for our time, for this time, focused on diverse theological perspectives, radical inclusion, and knowing that issues of justice and equity shape everything that we do. With a special awareness for those who have been historically marginalized, we welcome all of every race, class, ethnicity, immigration status, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious background, mental and physical ability, and disability. We welcome your whole self, your family into our worship as we build a community of kindness and caring and courage and hope. Our opening words are from the hymn that our service hails from. My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the sweet, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear that music ringing. It finds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? I invite you to grab a chalice or a candle from your home as we recite our covenant and light our chalice together. Share out loud with me. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to share our strength in fellowship, thus do we covenant. And that was my wife, Karen, the only other person in the sanctuary. For our online gathering today, you are able to chat with our panelists, and there will be a time later in the service that you can share your joys and sorrows with us. On the Zoom screen, look for the symbol that says chat. This is where our moderator will list our order of service and other information. And as always, check in on social media with the hashtag UUAnywhere. And after service, we'll be having an online coffee hour. I hope you'll join us. After the coffee hour, we're going to be having a gathering for those of you who are new or visiting the UUCP. Come and learn if you want to learn more about us or just meet some fellow religious travelers. I want to introduce our worship team here. We've got our pianist, Mary Cota. There's Mary. Wonderful. There's Mary. Wonderful. We've got our Director of Children's Ministries, Katie Resendez. There's Katie. Our music director, Benji Messer, is off today as he's preparing our denomination's General Assembly music. We are so honored to be supporting him as He is the prestigious music coordinator for this very large and important event, and a pioneer in making it the first online General Assembly. So behind the scenes, we have our AV team, Justin and Carol, and Amy is our moderator today. And now I'm honored and privileged to introduce our worship associate, Sam Kirkland.
Hello, I'm Sam, and I'm honored to serve as your worship associate this morning. I have a few announcements about the life of our community. Weekly activities. We have tons of community programming for kids and adults. If you're looking for a little more spiritual connection, consider joining us for Monday morning meditation or Wednesday evening vespers. If you want thoughtful discussions, our Death Cafe gathering on Thursdays have been very, very rich. And if you just want to connect for a bit of fun, join us for game time on Wednesday at noon, campfire stories on Wednesday night, or Thursday evening community night. All of our program links and passwords are on our weekly e-newsletter, and you can sign up for Compass on our website at phoenixuu.org. If you have found us at UUCP and are interested in learning more about Unitarian Universalism or UUCP in general, please join us right after coffee hour for a Get to Know UUCP gathering. It will be a great way to meet others whose religious journeys have brought them here and ask questions with our minister, Reverend Christine. The Zoom room link is in the chat and will be on the closing slide at the end of service. If you can't join us this time, there will be another gathering on June 28th. Are you a graduate? We are honoring those who are graduating or making academic transitions from kindergarten to graduate school. Please make sure we know about your transition by filling out the super quick form in the chat or on Compass. Our annual meeting will be after service on Sunday, June 14th. We'll discuss the business of our congregation and vote on our budget and next leaders. Members should have got the packet online last Friday, and those who asked for mail updates should be receiving it any time now. You can also find links to it on the Compass, in the Compass or on the website. We're having informational sessions on the budget. You know you want to join us for that. Come and learn more about where we spend our valuable resources and ask questions. There are 3 sessions that you can attend. Find the dates and times in the Compass. And finally, there wouldn't be a budget if it weren't for your generosity. All of us collectively contribute to supporting the mission and vision of this congregation. As we explore what it means to be a religious community for our time, we invite you to give to our offering anytime during the service. I want to note that within the first few days of this pandemic, your board and our minister prioritize continuing to pay all of our staff. They have found creative ways to make sure that all of our employees, even those whose jobs relied on being in a building, like our sextons and childcare workers, are still earning their salaries by working for the congregation in creative ways. This is possible because of your generosity. We hope you will continue with that giving. You can text UUCP $ at 73256. That's text UUCP $ to 73256, or you can click on the easy button on our website, or you can send a donation by mail. As always, we are so grateful for your generosity. Our music director, Benji Messer, is off today, but he has a message for us.
Good morning, everyone. Several members of our choir recorded themselves singing our opening hymn this morning. Please feel free to sing along with them.
My life flows on in endless song, above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost song, while to the rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To praise the cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Good morning. My name is Katie Resendez, and I'm the Director of Children's Ministry here at UUC Phoenix. Can you imagine what it was like to sing in front of a camera and know that you were the only one that you could hear, and your face was up close, and hoping that the way your voice blended would blend with the other choir members? That was amazing. And it was so hopeful and joyful. The past few weeks, I've been telling you all when I close my story that you are all powerful. And I think it's important that we keep remembering that. We remember that the little things we do every day have a great impact. The smiles that we give people over Zoom have a huge impact, and that our power is everywhere. There's also a power that I've been thinking a lot about, and I think a lot about in terms of kids, because they do this so well, and adults forget that we can do this. And I think the video of our choir members singing is a great illustration. It's our ability to hold two things at once, and not a cup of water and a delicious hamburger. Things like anger and pride, frustration and happiness. And lately I've been thinking about fear and joy, and how sometimes those two things can be so linked together, and we can be so scared of something, but also know that it will make us happy. And balancing out our safety and our risk in doing those things can be tricky, and it takes a lot of power. I have an anxiety disorder, and that means that sometimes when things seem little, my brain and my heart and my body make them big. My chest pounds, my hands get tight, my eyes get really big, and it can be no big deal. Or someone might tap me on the shoulder and I'll turn around and go, ah, and scream loud. It's part of how I move through the world, is carrying what feels like fear all the time. So when I was little and would go to birthday parties at a new house, someone I knew a little bit but had never visited, there would be times when I could feel my stomach tightening up, my hands tightening up, and that pounding in my chest. But I would know that inside there was a birthday party, and there would be balloons. I love balloons, and games and friends and laughter. But that moment of figuring out how to step through the door and go into that party was so scary. And I've been feeling a lot of that lately, and I think as a community, we're feeling a lot of that. It's that we don't know what the next steps are. We don't know what happens on the other side of that door. But we can be brave, and we can put our hand on the doorknob and turn it and step in. Because birthday parties aren't going to look the way they've always looked. Not for the next few months, maybe not for a long time. When we think about singing It might not be the same way it always has been. It might be over a microphone on a computer screen. But if we're brave and we stick together and we step through, we can remember how powerful we are to hold fear and joy and excitement and nervousness all together, and also all together as a community. We can hold these things and help one another be brave. So let's all take deep breaths together. And let's, when we can't hold each other's hands, let's hold each other's hearts. Because we're holding fear, we're holding happiness, and we're holding hope. And we are so powerful. And you are so very, very loved.
Thank you, Katie. That was so beautiful. And thank you, choir. That was, I'm actually glad that Katie talked first because I was getting a little verklempt here. So this is the time when we go to share our joys and sorrows with our community, to talk about what has meaning in our hearts and in our lives. I invite you to send a message to panelists to let me know of a joy that you have this morning. And if you want to make it private, so just I know it, just put the word private and I won't read it out loud. And I ask that you write your name before the message so I can easily acknowledge who that is from. So I've got one already. The Lifshitz family says, a joy is Colin graduated from 8th grade. So on to Sunny Slope High School you go, Colin. We are so, so proud and excited for you. Jay Bastani says that our grandson Leo celebrates his birthday today and graduated from Sequoia Elementary School. And that's from Jay and Shova. Congratulations to the grandson. That's lots of graduations. Just to let you all know, on June 14th, we're going to be celebrating all of our graduates in some pretty fun ways. That's going to be something that we're really looking forward to. Sue Baird says, so proud of my niece and grandniece who both graduated college this month. And Sunshine Watson says that they are celebrating Reggie's cap and gown pickup this week and graduation from Phoenix College. So congratulations, Reggie. Absolutely. So this is from Christine Carmona says, I got my Zoom back, and Christine's been having technology problems. So glad to hear that. Bunny Hodis says, we celebrated watching my daughter Lauren's PhD commencement from UT Austin last night. Very, very exciting. From Mike and Debbie Carr Taylor, they celebrated their daughter's 21st birthday on Wednesday. Her Grace in Handling Quarantine birth today, and mom and dad made all of that for a beautiful day. And Shelly Stevenson says, with Chloe's 4 AP exams now done, we are in full summer mode here at the Stevenson Browns. Love that. Brad Chapman says that I spoke to my brother who has COVID-19 and he is stable with only mild symptoms in isolation and being cared for. And I'm so glad to hear that, Brad. Jazz says, the family took a walk today and looked at the trees. And we're so glad that we get to be outside. Amy Miskell says their 8th wedding anniversary will be on the 26th. Francis and Lynn says it's swimming season. And Jenny Jones says, my daughter has decided it's safe for us to get together and the grandkids will be spending the night tonight. Looking forward to spending time with them, and please be careful. David and Uli, so Uli says, so happy I was able to talk to my mom in Germany today and she's doing well. And Val Wiley says, all 4 of my family graduations took place virtually from Phoenix to Minneapolis and Colorado Springs. Very, very proud of all of them. And Arlene says, my daughter's family in Cyprus with 3 children have been locked in house and yard since 3/13, and they were allowed out on Wednesday. So, and Trudy says, congratulations to my friend Christopher in Wisconsin, who married his partner yesterday at age 65. They thought it was time to take the plunge. And then Anna says, my son Julian's spring piano recital was still able to take place, but online. So proud of him. Carol Minetta says that our nonprofit Reap Goodness was able to do a webinar, and they did some great work around storing and cleansing water and developing food for us. So that's terrific. And now I invite you to share any sorrows that might be on your heart or mind. Again, put the word private in it if you just want it for me, and put your word or your name in front of it. And as you do that, a reminder, the generosity in this congregation around ministerial discretionary fund has been so abundant. So please let me know if your hours have been cut or you need a little extra support. Our community is here to take care of each other. Please also let me know if you get sick or a family member gets sick. We are here to help and support. So a few sorrows. Vicki Myers says, sending healing thoughts and love to my mom who is in the hospital. Oh no, Vicki, hope to have you better and out soon. Oh, we are all thinking of that. And I'd love to hear more about that. I also want to note the sorrow of any day now, we are going to, as a nation, hit 100,000 people dead from COVID. And we know that that's an underestimate. And I just, in our sorrows today, I want us to hold space for the tremendous grief that's going on in our country from all of that loss, and just wrap our head around that number. And Francis says that I'm missing my dad, who's been gone for 6 years now. I know there's many other sorrows and concerns on our hearts, and we hold those with us. So now I invite you to a time of meditation and prayer. Center yourselves, put your feet on the floor or ground yourself, settle into your couch, and take a few deep breaths. We are in Memorial Day weekend. Without the traveling and picnics and gatherings, it's maybe we can have the opportunity to remember what the day is all about tomorrow. Remembering all of those who have died in the many wars that have been waged on behalf of this country. Please join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life, spirit of love, of all that surrounds us. We remember, first of all of those who are currently serving in the armed forces, and we pray for their safety and for those who are deployed for their safe return. We also acknowledge that there have been many who did not return and will not return. We grieve their passing, and we pause to honor their service and their sacrifice. In the holy quiet of this hour, we remind ourselves of their sacrifices, how they surround us, and as we remember and honor them. I share the words of Heather Januels. We come this day called by war, by the suffering we inflict and endure, when minds cross borders, fail to reason and compromise. We come this day called by loss, the deaths of those who serve in our name, those whose lives end before their natural course in a service to a cause greater than their own. We come this day called by hope, hope that we will in some season finally surrender our swords for plowshares. And we come this day called by peace. May we hear its song, may we proclaim its promise, may our remembrance today renew our struggle. We can never stay or rest. Join me in a moment of silence. Amen. Blessed be. And Ashe.
When I got the news that the choir would be one of the last things that might resume post-COVID-19, I think I might have gasped out loud. Singing in the congregation's choir is one of my favorite things at UUCP, along with facilitating Aisle 3. Before I'd heard this news, I asked Benji and Mary to help me on a song that I love in honor, particularly of the birth of my new granddaughter, Devin Morgan Lovell. Benji and Mary, professionals that they are, got everything that I needed together, and they are now just waiting on me to send them my vocal track. And I have to say that listening to my voice without the physical support and love that I have with the musicians just might be the thing that keeps me from singing. I find so many things that I don't like about my voice and even my singing style as I sit in my man cave / laundry room. I've noticed this warbly-like quality that I never paid much attention to that's causing me to erase take after take, let alone not liking the way I look as I sing the song. And it's to the point that I find it's debilitating. Ironically, I don't have as much trouble when I'm sending out virtual choir parts. I think it might have something to do with not wanting to let down my section or the choir as a whole. One result of that virtual choir is the video you just saw of us earlier. We sound pretty good, don't we? I'd like to think that the idea of knowing that singing might be one of the last collaborative things to come back post-pandemic has shifted my micro-criticism and dissection of what up until now was almost second nature to me. It has also reconfirmed my empathy for folks who find their singing unsatisfying or their performance anxiety so stressful that they'd rather have an IRS audit rather than risk it. However, it's also reminded me how much I love our beloved community and how it inspires me to do more, to care more, and to share more. And that, the experience of sharing, makes all of the notes sound just a little bit sweeter.
Thank you, Sam. That was fabulous. And I thought for the readings today that I would come into the choir loft and feel the energy of the choir surrounding all of us as we think about this. I have two readings for us today. The first is about the science of singing, and the second is a letter from Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, the president of the Unitarian Universalist Association. These readings are hard to hear. I'm going to be truthful. They were for me. So I'm holding you close as you read these. And if you want, place your hand over your heart to ground yourself as you hear science, but challenging science and difficult truths. The first reading is from a letter from the Wisconsin Council of Churches from May 8th. Interestingly, the state of Wisconsin has done an excellent job of translating science into accessible materials related to churches. It's pretty sad that we've got to rely on Wisconsin to get us good information, but I have been relying on Wisconsin. Here's what they say. Medical science and public health experts have offered us these reflections grounded in scientific literature. The vibrations of speaking and singing create aerosols, superfine droplets, which hang in the air for much longer and can travel longer distances than coughing and sneezing. Compared to breathing, which does produce a certain level of aerosols, talking produces about 10 times more aerosols and singing about 60 times more. Volume matters. The quantity of aerosols generated when talking depends on how loud the the speech is. The louder, the more aerosols. This may be one of the many factors that make singing more dangerous. Another factor may be that the deep breathing of singing inhales these aerosols deeper into the lungs. Cloth face coverings are important general protection because they are reasonably good at blocking larger droplets. However, they are much less effective at blocking fine particle aerosols. They should not be relied upon to be protective in the case of singing. The bottom line is that there seems to be ample evidence to suggest that singing creates a quantity of fine aerosols that can stay suspended in the air for long periods of time, move with the air currents, and stay infectious for many hours, exposing virtually everybody in the building. Our sources strongly recommend against singing indoors in public until a vaccine is widely available and widely used. For similar reasons, the use of wind instruments should also be avoided. Let that sit on your heart for a moment. The second reading is a letter sent from Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, the president of our Unitarian Universalist denomination. This congregation knows Susan and is proud to know her as their previous called minister to this congregation. Her letter shows fortitude, courage, and a commitment to justice. It is also difficult to hear, even if we recognize its truth. She says, "Dear leaders, as states around the country begin to loosen guidelines and take actions to reopen, even as COVID-19 cases and deaths continue to climb, we have received many questions from congregations about returning to in-person gathering. Over the past several weeks, the UUA has consulted with multiple public health officials in order to update the guidance we provided on March 12th, recommending congregations stop gathering in person. Based on advice from experts, we continue to recommend that congregations not gather in person. We also recommend that congregations begin planning for virtual operations for the next year through May of 2021. Take a moment to breathe. I know this is significant, she says. While there is much public conversation about reopening, the reality is that public health officials consistently predict a long trajectory for this pandemic. A majority of our congregational members, leaders, and staff members are in high-risk categories. Our care for the well-being and safety of our members and staff must be a priority in this pandemic. Additionally, religious gatherings are considered highly contagious events. The acts of singing, the familiarity of people across households, the multi-generational community of children, youth, adults, and seniors, the things that make our congregation so special also create more risk for spreading the virus. Given that so much uncertainty and risk remain, anticipating a year of virtual operations allows for more creative long-term planning while still being flexible if conditions change significantly. We recognize that with time and depending on the specific conditions and recommendations of local health officials, small in-person groups of people and limited staff activities on site may become possible while wearing masks, observing social distancing guidelines, and following diligent cleaning practices. In making our recommendations, we are guided by science and our deepest held values. This pandemic teaches us that our actions directly impact the health and well-being of our neighbors, and so it is imperative that we make choices that keep our congregations and larger communities safer. As COVID-19 disproportionately impacts people with disabilities, Black people, Indigenous communities, Latinx people, the elderly, and essential workers, a majority of whom are women and women of color, religious communities have a moral responsibility to do all we can to reduce risks for those already at such high risk. Public health officials are clear. There will need to be multiple weeks of reduction in infections, adequate testing, sufficient personal protective equipment available, contact tracing programs, and perhaps a vaccine before it will be safe for many of our congregations to fully gather in person. All of this said, our ministries are essential services. I am moved by congregations who are increasing their services and generosity to the larger community during this pandemic. I am inspired by those who are keeping their virtual doors open. Many congregations have committed to keeping their services widely accessible and available to new people and visitors, while also creating more opportunities for virtual small groups to tend to the social, spiritual, emotional, and material needs of their members. We hope that a vaccine or an effective treatment will be found soon to change this timeline. In the meantime, being able to plan for the longer horizon of virtual services offers us an opportunity to be creative in planning for life-giving, essential ministry across physical distance. I continue to hold you, your community, and all of our people in my heart and in my prayers. I know adjusting to this new reality is heartbreaking. I also believe congregations who continue to lean into their mission and life-saving ministry will find ways to thrive in this time. Ministry is so deeply needed, as is moral leadership rooted in community care and in science. May we keep offering this to our communities. Yours in love and gratitude, Susan. It feels so good to be back at the pulpit. The lowest day of the pandemic for me so far was when I read the research on singing. I saw the first research that I read to you several weeks ago, and I thought, how do we do this? How do we get together without singing? I mean, I had already been considering all the challenges. How do we get people through the lobby? Maybe we limit the number of attendees at one time. We don't hand out hymnals. We don't do orders of service. Maybe, no coffee hour. We certainly can't be hugging or shaking hands. All of that was challenging and sad enough. But now you tell me that singing is one of the most infectious activities we can possibly do. How do we not sing? How do we not sing? Like, do you understand? UUCP is a singing congregation. We are a clapping, dancing, go around the aisles, hug each other, except for the people who don't like that, and I really honor that, and we need to be supportive of that. But we are a singing congregation. Immediately, I felt a real sense of grief for the members in our choir, those who the greatest joy is to make music with each other, and all of our other musicians and performers, our ukulele group, the resistors, our folk singers, and our wind and jazz ensembles, because that's just as dangerous as singing. All of those activities just went in a minute from pure joy and creativity to becoming an agent for disease. When I read Reverend Susan's letter, I had 3 simultaneous reactions. That of extreme pride, little relief, and a horrendous gut punch. I was so proud of her for citing issues of safety and reason and science and justice. I was so proud that she named the issues of inequity in this disease. And I was proud of her for making us the first denomination to take such a courageous and risky stand when it felt like the country was losing its collective mind about reopening. I was relieved because I'd seen so much talk of churches gathering again, and this wasn't even this week, don't get me started, but you know I'm going there. And they were talking about this summer, and I was trying to figure out how we even get back together the rest of this year. But May of 2021, I don't disagree that that's a reasonable date. I just hadn't projected it out that far. That's another 12 months when the first 2 months have already felt like a year in themselves. I imagine that many of you are also holding conflicting thoughts about this as well, that you're relieved that we're not going to be among the maskless virus deniers who are collectively putting everyone at risk, and that another year of not worshiping together is probably more than you can imagine or possibly bear. And that goes for our community, but also so many aspects of our lives right now. So let me give you a few functional caveats because I know it will come up. So first of all, these are just guidelines. We get to choose as a congregation what is right for us. In a pandemic universe that is changing every single week, your board and I are watching all the forecasts, the numbers, the recommendations, and we will make reasonable decisions based on science. I've been saying for a while that I didn't think that we were going to get together for the rest of 2020, and I do stand by that point. And we will keep monitoring. Second, we know that this virus doesn't strike equally. There are real equity issues at play here that Susan also referenced. I am really strongly opposed to creating a tiered system where some are invited to join us and others are excluded. It goes way against our values of radical inclusion and fairness. And finally, I want to name that we are never going to be able to go back to just an in-person worship. I think we have been changed forever. It has jump-started us into the digital age and shown us how to transcend geographical boundaries and reach people we've never been able to reach before. I know right now we have people worshiping with us from at least 10 other states outside of Arizona. I see you, and I appreciate you all so much. We know that some of our retired folks who worship with us just a half year in here and in another place the other half of the year no longer have to choose between their 2 congregations. They get to worship with both every week. And I know that many others have found online worship more inviting than in-person worship. People who are neurodiverse For them, the online service has less stimulation, so they're not as tired at the end and can actually participate in coffee hour. For our members who really don't like the extroverted greeting their neighbor, or who have trauma around touching, this takes that element of risk out of it for them. It gives us opportunities to think about how online worship fulfills our vision or helps fulfill that to be radically inclusive. So that's a lot of functional, scientific thinking about it. And yet there are so many emotions around all of this. So many complex things that we're holding at the same time, like Katie said. Grief, fear, and isolation, and yearning, and loneliness, possibly relief, anxiety, anticipation. And for a people who like to plan, I'm looking at you, Unitarian Universalists. We like to plan and we like to be in control. And there's so little control, right? And darn it, I just miss you. We miss seeing each other, seeing our kids growing up, hugging, and those yummy feelings that we get in being together. But how can I keep from singing? How? I can't. Our worship and our gathering and our community are bigger than a building, and they are bigger than in-person worship. We are not reliant solely on this building. With each passing week, I think we are all realizing that more and more. Don't get me wrong. Oh, we love our 9 gorgeous acres and the view of Camelback Mountain. We love this huge sweeping sanctuary and its lack of a 90-degree corner anywhere in the whole space. We have become attached to specific rooms where we all have memories. But it is not the building that created the community. It's the community that infused its spirit into the building. We have shown that we are a community beyond the building. The ways that our neighborhood connection groups reformed and everyone has been checking on each other is nothing less than miraculous. I hear stories of people getting groceries for each other, dropping off puzzles for each other, calling and just checking in and listening in new and deeper ways. The engagement for those who are participating in our Zoom program has been wonderful and heartening. We are getting dozens of people in a lot of our programming, people who we may have never gotten the chance to get to know before. We're having deeper discussions than I have experienced in much of my in-person ministry. And we can do all of that without a commute. I've noticed that we've been calling our worship and gatherings virtual, but they aren't. They're not virtual. Virtual means they're not real. They are real. The better word is online, or maybe even digital. But virtual means that it's not real, and I promise you that what we are doing is very, very real. It's not the same as singing together in the sanctuary, but the music that we are making together is not dependent on being physically together. We are the congregation wherever we exist. We are being asked to hold these complex emotions. And then, on Friday, opening the church became even more politicized. The United States president said that opening churches was an essential function, and he demanded governors would do so. And he said that he would override the governors if they didn't, which, by the way, he can't do. We are essential. Do not mistake that. We are essential in our communities, and it is unsafe to open. There are churches that are picketing and yelling and screaming that their government is preventing their right to worship. No, we are trying to keep people alive. We are caring for our community by doing this act. Sometimes I wonder, are we living in the same world? Are they and us in the same world? Because to me, this is an act of love. To me, this is an act of science. To me, this is common sense. And we are worshiping. We are essential. We are together. We're doing it in a way that respects all of our worth and dignity and safety. We are showing God's love, community love, global love by being here together online. My beloveds, we can hold each other during the lament and the tumult of the song. And we can stagger our breaths so that we can keep on singing. And we need to do that because some of us are going to be struggling and others are going to be strong. It may happen in the same day, and in the next hour, it will switch. We can show the world that we are a different kind of congregation. We do that all the time, and this is a chance again to say, yeah, we're not that kind of church. We can use this to show ourselves and show others how we are a congregation for our time. The singing's a little different. We can't just hide in the seats in the sanctuary and let Benji and all of the choir sing for us and cover up our voice. We need to do our own carrying of the metaphorical singing, holding the melody, adding some harmony, singing off key perhaps, but doing it with gusto. Our souls are meant to sing. We cannot do it in person right now, but we are no less a congregation, and we need it no less. In fact, we need it more. There is lamentation. There is tumult and strife. But my beloveds, we cannot keep from singing. Online or in person, we are the congregation for this time. I miss you, and I love you. And we will be right here online for as long as it takes. So let's enjoy one more wonderful version of this song. It's led by the music director of our UU congregation in Brooklyn, and it's featuring music from all around New York City. And New York City knows they cannot keep from singing.
My life goes on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, the far off hymn that hails a new creation.
No storm can shake my inmost song, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from
close in, I see the blue above it, and day by day this pathway smooths, since first I learned to love it. No storm can shake my inmost calm. I hear the music ringing, it sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing?
So you all don't get to see all the comments that are coming into the panelists. And I will just tell you that if you all were in these seats, I would be able to look out and see how many of you are crying. And I can't help it, I'm right there with you. So I'm not even going to pretend that I'm not. And so much love coming around. So how can we keep from singing, indeed? And before our closing words, we do have community. Community continues in coffee hour, and our coffee hours have been so sweet. There's a time for everyone to gather and just say hi, and then we break out into small groups. I want to invite those of you who haven't tried it yet. You don't have to even turn on your camera. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to go into a small group. But it's so nice to look around the room and see each other's faces. I want you to find that space, whatever is most comfortable for you and your family. We have 3 different things happening. We've got adult coffee hour, we've got our family and kids coffee hour, and then at 12:30, we're going to be having a get to know UUCP if you're brand new to UUCP or just want to know a little bit about who is this Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix. We'll put the links in the chat and it will be on the final slide. So now, remember that this congregation was never contained by just a building. Remember that we as a congregation believe in science and doing what is right and loving each other so much that we are willing to sacrifice not being together. Remember that our spirits are stronger than we think, even when it feels like they aren't. Remember that in a world that is full of tumult and strife so much, we are the ones that must keep singing. Go in peace. Go in love.